Hello, 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 and welcome. Super excited to be here with you tonight. Whether you are chiming in from YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, I am here with you this evening. For those of you who don't know who I am Reverend Dr. Joanne Andrew Barry Cologne, the founder of Holistic Fitness and Why, and also the founder of Holistic Healing Magazine, which is why I'm actually here this evening. I focus on helping women over 40, helping them to release emotional weight without dieting, while holding space for them as they gain confidence and courage to step away from their 9 to 5 subconscious beliefs and outdated relationships. The W in holistic is all about the whole person. You're your thoughts, emotions, you're your body, you're your mind, you're a soul and spirit. And with all that being said, as mentioned, today I am here to chat with you about Holistic Healing Magazine. We're going to take just a quick minute just to make sure we're all tuning in and sharing out the show. So if you are able to go ahead to your device and share out the show for today, as I'm about to do now. Send this out, let everybody know we are here. And we're going to move right into our conversation. Your body, your mind. We always think we lowered that down. So anyway, as I mentioned, today is all about sharing, introducing, and talking about Holistic Healing Magazine. And we are speaking about the March issue, although, yes, we're in the end of April and we're literally getting ready for the May issue. But you know how they say when we talk about show business, we're always either a month ahead in reference to the feature that's out and about, and 1 month behind in reference to introducing our amazing contributors. So I am going to go ahead and bring out one of our author features from our March issue, and he, Mr. Nick Rafter, will definitely introduce himself. So hello, Nick. How are you?
Hello, I am good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Exciting to be here. Super excited to chat with you. Seems like a little while since you and I have actually done this. Nick and I used to do this, oh my God, probably every other month on my talk show, Joanne's Healing Within, for those of you who are familiar. I'm sure you're familiar with Nick's face right now. And Nick, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Who am I? Well, I'm Nick Rafter. I am a realtor, author, journalist, um, writer, jack of all trades. And, my professional job is to serve people who are buying, renting, selling real estate in the New York City area, specifically Brooklyn, Queens, and Nassau County. But I also am a writer of current affairs, politics, and culture. And I also do a lot of editing and that kind of thing for freelance work for people who need editing. And I'm also now a published novelist.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that you do so much of what you do, but everything of what you do is serving people, as in, as a realtor, as a public novelist, everything you do serve people. So I love that about you. Let's talk a little bit about something so on the side right now, which is really not because it's what you do as a realtor, especially now. How is that industry going at this moment of time for you?
It's going okay. I mean, the New York market is holding up pretty well. There's a lot going on with uncertainty in the economy with the war going on and the rising inflation prices and stuff like that, mortgage prices. But New York has a very unique real estate market in that it has not in decades been susceptible to the same type of trade winds that the national market is facing. But the rental market is very hot. It's always hot. There's not nearly enough supply in New York City to handle the demand, and so even when it's cool, it's still warm. The sales market depends on where you are. So if you're looking to buy something that's high priced. That market's always hot. There was a great opening for people who want to just enter the market through lower end listings like co-ops and less expensive condos, especially in the outer borough. But the uncertainty is there, and it kind of makes it a little bit of a chaotic market, but it's not at all dead.
I love that. I love that. And for as long as I know you, and it's a long time now. How long do we know each other?
10 years.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, a long time. I always remember you always talking about wanting to write a book. Now, curious, before we dive into the actual conversation, is this the actual book that you've always wanted to write, or is this a book that came out?
Well, I had written it, and I wrote it almost 14 years ago now. And I had it written when we met, and we talked about it early on that I had already written it. I was going through the editing process at the time. I changed some of it, and I just didn't know how to get it published, and or I just hit walls in trying to get it published. And about a year ago, one of my friends in a writing group in Brooklyn that I'm involved with just told me to throw it on Amazon. Amazon will publish it for you. And I was hesitant to do that because I kind of wanted to do it the old traditional way, but I had plenty of author friends who had successes doing that. So that's what I decided to do. And they published it, and it came out in October. Here it is. And, people have been reading it and getting good responses about it. And I'm hoping that it starts, a new chapter. It's no pun intended, where it does motivate me to write like the next novel too. And so, it's an accomplishment that I checked off my list. And earlier, but the option wasn't there 10 years ago. So
yeah, and I love the fact that this is a book that you've written 14 years ago, and it just, I guess, being derailed. And the big question, just like you said, and you obviously answered it, is how to go about publishing the book. Now, before your friend told you about Amazon, what were some of your other ideas for publishing?
Well, I would, reach out to literary agents to see if they were interested. That's always a very difficult thing. You get dozens of rejections before anyone even considers it. I sent it just cold to a lot of publishing companies. Didn't really get a big response on that. I did, in the process, get a lot of advice as to how to change things, change my pitch, and that kind of stuff. Mostly, I think the big problem was I didn't stay with it. So you would get 5 or 6 rejections. I would just give up for 6 months. And so that sort of like kept it going. And also there was a sense too, where I guess a lot of artists feel this way, but I certainly feel this way when we're writing, that maybe it wasn't good enough to publish. I would go back and read it and then dig for reasons why, like, oh, this is not good, I shouldn't publish it. And I think that was kind of like that self-doubt was there. But what I discovered is that every artist has that, and it's something that you had to sort of challenge. And I in the end I did, because I had beta readers, I had people who read it and said it was pretty good. And that's something I just had to kind of challenge. It was more of just like being motivated to keep doing it and to keep trying. And this option was just easier, obviously. But also it gets it out there, because like I've had a lot of friends who've done it this way, and then they've got picked up by professional and market publishers down the line. And so, it just, at the very least, it gets the writing out there for people to read, and, maybe opens up my visibility to people who haven't had it before. And, I guess makes it easier for me to sort of promote myself as a writer now that I actually have something to write.
Exactly. And based on a statement you made before in reference to, quote unquote, all the different feedback you were getting and the theoretical rejection, and then thinking that your book is your book really good enough to be put out there? And the short answer to that question, for anybody who's watching who has never written a book or who's thinking about writing a book, is I truly believe that if that book came into your mind, and all the many chapters along with the book to make it a book came into your mind, that there are people out there looking to read that book. Otherwise, you would not have had the information downloaded for you to write a book.
Yes.
And again, very common for most writers, most authors to go and think, well, is this valuable enough for somebody to want to read it? And again, the answer is, of course it is. Now, my next question to you regarding your publication. Now, your book has been out since when?
October 1st. I
Of
published
2025.
2025. Yes, only about 7 months.
All right. So since October 1st of 2025, have you done like a book launch or a book signing or any of that stuff?
Not officially, and I think that's one of the things that I'm like trying to figure out how to do now because I don't know how to get it done and how to do it, and basically looking, some of my friends who advise me are like say that I should ask people if they're willing to host it and that kind of thing. And it's one of those things where I thought about, well, let me figure out um, what to do now and build that, marketing material and that kind of stuff. I did do a launch in my own company, which was actually pretty successful, where we basically told other agents in New York City that I had written a book because a lot of the people I work with also work on Broadway and they do movies, and so they promote themselves as well. And that was a great experience because I had a lot of agents who bought the book, read it, and they spread the word. So that did it as well. But I never did a real like launch party type of situation.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I kind of did a soft launch, I guess. I'm not. It's not that I'm waiting for another opportunity, but it's just not something I really thought too deeply about yet.
Yes, yeah. Well, the reason why I asked, because again, as someone who's written, oh my God, I think six books, and one is actually being birthed as we speak. I'm really big on book signings and book launches, and become even bigger since meeting many other people who've actually published their own books as well. And you and I could definitely have a conversation offline in reference to some ideas I can give to you so you get that book launch going. Because you definitely want to have a book launch. You definitely want to um, find places or find friends who would be willing to allow you to host an event at their place or find a place, whether it be a diner, a library, I mean, especially the books that you've written, it's definitely something that you could probably find many places to be open to having you host your book there and have a launch with it. The next question to ask in regards to being that you did publish on Amazon, did you do what we call how do they say that? A best-selling opportunity where you got a bunch of people at the same time to turn and go purchase your book.
Yeah, I did do something similar to that. I got a really good sort of turnout for that, and I was happy. Those things don't last very long, which is great. It's a great sort of like one-time opportunity thing that sort of like get you out there in that moment, and that was helpful because it was timed around the holidays, so I was able to sort of sell it as like a holiday type of thing. More of that type of thing that sort of like happens over and over again, that sort of like keep momentum going is what I got from that, and it was really good for like the initial launch. And I think I'm really going into this next stage where I'm writing a follow-up and I'm in the middle of doing that, and having the book published and having an actual physical copy of it like this is extremely motivating in getting you to write the next one.
Exactly. And being that you have the copy right there, what was that experience? And because this is your first book, correct?
Yes, it's the first one I published. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So what is the experience? Because I know it's different for many. And what was the experience for you when you received your book in the mail? When you literally got that hard copy in the mail, what was that like for you?
I think I would love to say that I couldn't believe it, but I almost could. It felt like a completion of a long process, but also I've had so many dreams that have come true in my life where like I've wanted to do things and I've actually done them, that it did feel like something that was inevitable. And so I kind of felt accomplished and I definitely motivated. But also, I wasn't surprised. It was one of those things where I looked at the book and I said, well, yeah, this was always coming for me because I always had such a dedication to getting this done and to getting it, somehow doing it. And I kind of felt like I wish it had happened earlier. But
Mm,
also, I come to the conclusion that everything happens when it happens. I think as I'm older now, I realize that some gifts and some wins had to come later. I
yes.
couldn't appreciate them at 20. I wrote the book when I was 29, and the final copy, the final draft, looks very different than the one that I wrote when I was 29.
Uh,
And I think a lot of that basically said to me that this is something that couldn't have happened when I was 29. It just wouldn't have been the same. And
yes.
I
Yeah.
think
And
that's
it's
what I
like you
got.
said too. It's the timing. It was birthed exactly when it needed to be birthed, and the information that's in that book from cover to cover is information that's needed now. Versus, let's say, if you did decide to really make that commitment 14 years ago to get the writing going, get it out 14 years ago, it would have had a different energy to it, so to speak.
And I think what's great about it now is the story takes place 14 years ago. So I wrote it in the era in which it was taking place. And looking back on it now, it feels like a snapshot in history that's more worthy to look at now than it did 12 or 14 years ago when it was the same time frame. There's certain aspects of it in terms of like social media among the characters, or the political situation of New York, because it takes place in New York City at the time, that only made sense then. One of the things about it is that it's set in the Rockaways in Queens, which is, if you don't know New York City, it's a beachfront community of working class people. And it's set in the summer of 2012. And if you know what happened that year, Hurricane Sandy hit in the fall of 2012. So the book kind of ends a month before the hurricane. And after the hurricane hit, I thought about changing the time frame or whatever, but I kept it because it really is sort of a snapshot of what that community was like before Hurricane Sandy, fundamentally changed it. There's certain landmarks that don't exist anymore because they got destroyed in the hurricane or demolished after the hurricane. And so I wanted to keep that setting because people who have lived there or know it, before Hurricane Sandy, read it in my book now and they go, "Oh, I remember that," or that doesn't exist anymore. Oh, I'm happy to be brought back to that. And I also think kind of the storyline makes sense if this time jumps back to when the characters were children in the 90s, and it really sort of like references stuff in the 1990s that don't really exist anymore, or is out of date. And so I'm glad I kind of waited a little bit more to publish it to when this historical context feels more relevant, or feels more for ancient for people to read and look back on it and not see it as a contemporary story. Because I don't think it makes sense.
Exactly.
You really can't set this story in 2026. It just wouldn't make sense. You know.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. And another reason why Nick and I are here sharing about his amazing book and the connection that Nick and I have, as we mentioned, that we've known each other for over 10 years now. When I met Nick, Nick was actually working for a newspaper company
Mhm.
and did a lot of writing back then too, correct?
Yeah, I was the editor in chief of the Queen's Tribune,
Yes,
which also a dream of mine, by the way. Was when I was in high school, I would drive by the Tribune's office and say to my friends like, "Oh, I want to be editor in chief of that paper one day," and then I did it when I was 32, and
exactly.
that's where we first connected.
Exactly, yes. So before we introduce Show the magazine that Nick was featured in, one other question for you, Nick, regarding your journey as an author. You mentioned it before that you are considering another book. Yes.
Yeah, I'm about a third of the way through writing it. There's several other novels that I'm writing, so there's probably gonna be 3 or 4 in the pipeline. But the next one, about the third of the way into it.
Yes. And will it have the same theme, or will it be like a series, or they're totally different
Well,
scenarios?
the next one is probably going to be very similar to this one in terms of what the characters are going through. In fact, there's a scene in my novel now that I actually bring back in the second novel. They're not related. It's a completely different story, but I feel like it's also an event that happened to me as a teenager, so I wanted to sort of reference it. And it will have some of the same themes. It'll probably be a little bit more controversial in terms of the topic. But my other, what I'm planning on writing after that might end up being a series because the story is, I outlined the story in so long that I feel like it can't just be one novel, and it takes place over the course of many, many years. And so it might end up being a series and it'll be more political. It'll have more to do with like the political uh, transformation of life in New York over the past 15 years and these characters journey through that. So you'll go through, Occupy Wall Street, and you'll go through, the pandemic and all of the stuff that's happened in the last sort of 15 years or so. And, it'll really just sort of take characters through that and that transition and that journey.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be a journey because even over the last 10 years, when we think about all that's happened in the last 10 years, there's been a lot that's definitely story worthy. And if there's anyone that could definitely create a fun story out of it, it's definitely Nick, because he is a great storyteller. And I'm sure that if we had more time to sit, we'd go into all of it as well.
Mhm.
However, I want to show everyone the magazine that he was featured in. He has a copy as well, right here, the March issue, and his actual feature right there as well with his book. So if you have not had a chance to get the March issue, I will definitely have it posted along the lines here. Those who are on Facebook, the post that I put up earlier today, in the comments, there's a link there that you can go ahead and purchase the book. It is on Amazon, and show them the actual book again so they can, if they want to get a screenshot of it, that they can bring it a little closer so they can get a screenshot. Come down here. There we go. Perfect. That if you want to go ahead and purchase his book, to go ahead and do so. And Nick, how can people find you if they are interested in, if they do live in the 5 boroughs, if they want to reach out to you to schedule and host a book launching for you, how can they reach you?
You can reach me, nickrafter@gmail.com. That's one word. That's the best way of reaching me. You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Nick Rafter. Mr. Nick_Rafter is how I laid out my screen name. You can find me there. Facebook, Nick Rafter Writes. Also, my Substack is also called nickrafterwrites.com, and I write a lot of stuff on there that would be great to share with people as well. Anyway, through that, you can just Google my name and you'll find stuff that will come up. And you can contact me that way. And of course, I also offer real estate advice and guidance as well. And if you need that in the New York area, or even not in the New York area, I can refer out to people in other states as well that we work with.
And I'm glad, Nick, that you mentioned about your real estate advice, because the one thing we did forget to mention, that since he's been featured as one of our authors for the March issue, he is now one of our elite contributors and writes a monthly article, all things involved. So yeah, you definitely want to go ahead and get your hands on all the issues of every month to learn more about the different articles that he's sharing, contributing to, and the insight he's providing. So, and again, if you have a challenging time reaching Nick through any of the platforms he's mentioned, you can always reach out to me and say, hey, I'm looking to talk to Nick, and I'll be more than happy to sending him a message to let him know that someone's looking for him. So all that being said, I want to congratulate you, Nick, on your book.
Thank you.
And also congratulate you on being an elite contributor and sharing your insight and wisdom with our magazine audience. It's a pleasure to have you there, and I'm looking forward to all your continuing articles that you'll be sharing with us. And with that, I'm going to be sending Nick backstage. Nick, before I send you backstage, can you give us a tip for any new author? And I always ask this question because anytime I have authors here, everyone gives very different answers. But what is your one tip for someone who's just starting out? They're looking to publish that book. They may not even have a word on the paper yet. What is that tip for them?
Observe. I think the thing that really made me great at this is that I observe people living and existing. I say one of the things that made me a great writer was a friend of mine used to have this thing when we were in college where we would watch people, just strangers, act, doing normal things, and we would create fake stories about them between me and her, and like this one did this and that one. And I think that really helped. Just observing, listening, seeing how the world works. Don't be creepy about it, obviously, but just watching humans in their element, and the stories will come, and just run with it, even if you think it's the weirdest story or the stupidest thing. Just run with it.
I love that. I love that. And the one piece of advice I give all the time for anyone who's looking to get that book going or just get an article going is just spend time every single day, pen to paper. Even if you don't have an idea of what to write about, there's always something to write about.
Yep.
Always something to write about. Keep pen and paper with you, or we always have our phones. Jot down something through your email. Start out with maybe 20 words, eventually expand it to 50 to 100. And before you know it, you may have 800 words. And then before you know it, you'll have 1,600 words and more than that.
Hmm.
That's how you start consistent. And
And
before
also
you know it,
find groups of other writers as well. I'm involved in a writing group in Brooklyn. We meet, we write for 2 hours, we talk, and that really helps as well.
yes, that is so true. Nick has mentioned about his writing group to me several times. In fact, many years back, oh my God, I don't even remember what year it was, way before the pandemic. I actually had a writing group as well. Actually was called, what was it called? Healing Within, I think it was Healing Within Writing, something like that. And we met once a month as a group. And it does make a difference when you do sit and collaborate energetically, not necessarily that you're collaborating in your writing. And you can, every one of you can come together, have one theme word that you're going to write about, spend an hour writing, and then after the hour writing you spend another hour sharing, and boom boom bang, it all happens so simply. So again, thank you so much, Nick, for being here, for sharing your wisdom, sharing your book. I'm going to send you backstage just to close out our show, so don't disappear when you go back.
Okay.
All right, dear. I'm hoping that you enjoyed tonight's topic with our author feature of the March issue, Nick Rafter, and his amazing book and his amazing story. So again, if you are interested in purchasing his book or even purchasing the March issue, I have shared the links in my earlier posts. You can, if you are watching from Facebook and you want those links, just put links in the comments. If you are watching from YouTube, you can email healingwithin76@gmail.com, or you've already seen the book. You can always go right over to amazon.com and order your copies. If you do want the issue of the March issue, you can also go to my website, Holistic Fitness NY, and scroll through. You'll find all the issues, at least up until probably March of this year. The March issue is not there, but either way, you can find them, you can get them. On a side note to all of this, anyone who's interested in becoming an elite contributor, who has something, expertise that you want to write about, I'm always looking for contributors. And this is a perfect time, as we are already halfway through 2026. I'm definitely going to be putting those applications out again. So if you enjoy writing, even if you don't have a specific topic, but you enjoy writing and you want to provide some insight and wisdom and share your stories, please reach out. Same goes if you are an author. If you have that book, now the book doesn't have to be finished. As long as you have a front cover to that book, you don't even need the link to the book. As long as you have the front cover to that book, I would love to feature you and get your book spotted and have more people to see what it is you're doing. So author features are always welcome. And I am now going to be promoting the covers for 2027. So if you're looking for that visibility, if you want to be seen, you want to get in the limelight, this is an opportunity. Keep your eyes open, as I will definitely be posting on Facebook, and of course sharing those posts on my Instagram page. in regards to looking for cover features for 2027. I cannot believe I am actually saying 2027 already. Although we are halfway, we're going to be in May. We're several days away from May. So there's so much going on. Another thing I want to put out there, just to let you know if you have not already seen, besides for Holistic Healing magazine, there is a second magazine, brand new magazine that's going to be coming out, launching in June, called Blood Sisters Portal. It's actually I'm gonna say like a birth to my book, The Menopausal Portal. And if you are interested, now of course it's for women. If you are interested in sharing your wisdom there, I am looking for contributors. I'll share more about that in a different note. Send me your information. Email healingwithin76@gmail.com. I would love to have you be a part of that community, that magazine, and so much more. So, as I always say, I will be back sharing some more about what the features, our cover features, and maybe even one or two of our elite contributors that may be willing to get a little air and light on their name. Until then, I hope that you continue to follow us. I hope that you're continuing to read every article because, again, from cover to cover from our magazine, there is amazing wisdom and insight that's being shared. I don't want you to miss one page of it. And again, you definitely want to read those amazing books that's showing up in the magazine as well. So until we meet again next time, bye-bye for now, everyone.